Hello everyone, my name is Grzegorz Jankowicz, and on behalf of Biuro Literackie I conduct conversations with writers whose books were chosen to be presented in this publishing series called New European Literary Canon. I ask them about the books themselves, I ask about experiences behind the books, I ask about our individual and collective identities, European identities, and also sometimes we envision what may happen to our European forms of life in the future. Today my guest is Benedek Totth. Hello, Benedek.
Hi.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. You begin your book, your novel, with a quote from Joseph Conrad. Why did you choose this particular writer and this short story called The Secret Share?
Yeah, sure. I studied English literature, so I knew the author well, and I read him a lot, his works a lot. So I really like his books, and a friend of mine suggested to read this short story while I was working on my novel, and I've read it years ago. And when I reread and I reached that sentence I chose to be the motto of the book, I realized that this sentence just summarizes the whole novel, the concept I'm working. I could never put it like this, like in so perfectly. I couldn't phrase what I was working on, and what Conrad just reached me from centuries or a century behind. And also later I realized when I was reading another novel, Michael Chabon. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, the American writer, and his book Wonder Boys has the same motto, but I didn't realize that. I just a few years ago, I was just rereading that book, that wow, that's the same motto. What? It's so funny, I guess.
Conrad presents a character who has some inner problems, secret problems that he cannot cope with, and these problems affect his notion of reality and decisions he makes. In what sense this particular figure relates to your characters from your novel?
Well, actually, I think the main character, the narrator, has we know him a bit better than the rest of the team. It's of course that it's about a team of guys, young boys, teenagers, and we have this narrator who is very passive, I guess we can say that, at least for a very long while in the book. He's just recording the events that happening, and just actually he's not even reflecting on them, just like goes with the flow. And yeah, I'm not sure how you can put together with the motto this thing, but this guy is just really someone I can relate to. So in this sense, we can say that it's based partly on my, I don't know, not experience, but experience too, but mentality or mentality at that age. Just go with the flow. That's don't make decisions. Just take what it comes and just go with the flow. That's maybe that's just that's written in the book, I guess.
The mental condition of these boys and their existential condition is very circular, I would say. The story begins with a car trip through the city, but it's not through the city. They're just going around and around and around. Is it a metaphor of their state? They just cannot escape from what they have inside, and they're just trapped in this circle.
Sure, yeah. That's the magic, I guess, of writing. I think when I found that the point where I can step into the story as a writer. Like I found the first sentence, I realized that it's just a sentence that's more than itself, like more than the words. And one Hungarian author, I really like his books. Péter Eszterházy said once that a book is a good book is or a good novel is more clever than the author. So I guess that's kind of like that. When you write a sentence like this, you don't realize that immediately that it's more than what you've written. But later, I just really I had this moment when I felt that okay, that's what I was looking for, like for years. Like I was working on this for years while I arrived at the point that okay, now it starts, the story starts. And of course you can read it in metaphorical sense, the whole thing, and even swimming as the most disturbing thing about competitive swimming is that you have a starting point, you go, you die in the pool, and you come at the same place you come out from the pool. So what's the point? That's something I still think about.
The thing is that they cannot progress. The circular movement may be funny for them sometimes, and even for the readers, but most often this circular movement is oppressive for those who are involved in the situation with them. And in other parts of the book, you reverse the perspective. You present the female perspective point of view, and through this perspective, we can question the deeds and actions and decisions made by the group of guys.
Yeah, the first the book did not. There wasn't this. The last chapter or was what you were referring to when the perspective is just changes. It was not included in the first edition in the Hungarian, but later I was asked to write some text, some short story for a magazine or a literary magazine, and I really tried to make it. It sounds maybe strange, but make it right. To show that it's not just fun and not just okay. What's funny for me or what's fun for me or what's good for me might be disastrous or really bad for others. And I could do that with changing the perspective and show how the female characters in the novel suffer like really bad, and which is not expressed fully or not written fully in the other very limited perspective of the narrator, of this young guy. Because you can see that it's really extremely subjective, the point of view where this whole tale is told. Like really, we just know what the guy sees, or maybe under influence of drugs, is just visions and dreams. So it's kind of like a flow of consciousness thing. So that was the idea behind the chapter included in the later editions.
In a short text wrote for Biuro Literackie, you shared an anecdote about your experience at school. You were supposed to deliver a speech at the school or to conduct some classes with students about literature, and the teacher told you that your book was given to one of the students, or you gave the book to the student, and it really helped this person tremendously.
Yeah.
He was taken out from his situation by your book. Could you tell us this story?
Yeah, I just heard from the teacher. I didn't know the guy, but she said, the teacher said that her student was like really on a downward slope, like really got into a gang or something, and made really nasty things, and just couldn't find the way in his life. He was completely lost. But he was still in contact with his teacher, this literary teacher in the small town where I live, and she just gave him the book, and I guess he was shocked by that. It's kind of shock therapy, Like maybe you look into a mirror and see yourself. Maybe a book can be like this. Like, you look into this book and wow, that's what I'm doing. That's just a theory of mine. I didn't meet the guy, but I was really happy is not a good word, but I was really. It was so intense emotionally to hear a story like this. So. When you write a book, it's about, well, I guess it's about you, the author, yourself. It's just an ego trip. And when it's just born, when the book is born and it goes out, it's like, you don't have anything, you can't do anything with that. So if there are readers, then there are readers. If they're not, if no one reads the book, then you can't do anything. You can't go onto the street and give people that, read my book. So if the book comes alive or has its own life, that's a really mysterious and a very elevating thing. And these stories are just make me feel that it was a good thing to do, this ego trip.
In the same text, there is a short information that you visited at least once a prison to speak to inmates. I conduct classes, I conduct workshops, reading workshops with inmates in prisons. Wow. So I noticed this line. What was your experience? How was it? Were you invited by the prison to deliver a reading there? Yeah. How was it?
Well, I've met once in an event, in a reading event, a psychologist who worked in a prison with inmates, and she was like, she read the book and we had a conversation about it, and she really liked the book, and then she had these workshops for it's a voluntary workshop for those who this drug addiction thing. Like, I'm not sure how to phrase correctly, but they were addicted and they just gave up using drugs or taking drugs, and they have this opportunity once in a month or a week that they have this gather together and talk about books or whatever. And she invited me there, so it was really a surreal experience. One of the experiences of my life, like sitting in a room with 30 like really tough guys, like and they are asking questions about the book, and at the end of the session I made them dedicate that I wanted them to dedicate to me. so some of them said that I don't write my own name, I just write the killer of whatever. And just look me in the internet, guy. You will find my name on there. And so this was so intense and so surreal, but I think it meant something for them because they were so attentive, and they you have more experience with this kind of experience, so they were so how you say that. They were they tried to tell their story. Mm-hmm. That was the end of this. I just said some things about writing and the book and whatever and drugs, and then that was their turn to tell their stories. So it was so cool and sad, of course. It's a ambivalent thing.
Absolutely ambivalent.
But just in a general sense, it's another thing that the book brought into my life. After the publication of the book, I could meet people or I could go places that I never imagined, and so somehow life is just open up. I was working in a basement and doing translations from the English, so that was my life. It's not a very intense way of living. Sitting in a desk at the desk and working on books, which is very fine, your imagination works, but
the text I mentioned twice was a response to our question whether literature can change the world, and you wrote something that struck me. You wrote that if the author thought about the limits of his or her responsibility each time he or she, they start writing, they would just go crazy. It would be impossible to write. So how to cope with the sense of responsibility when you formulate your story, when you create your story, present it to the audience, and then you just leave the audience with your words. How to deal with the sense of responsibility that comes to our mind. When we start to formulate any thought in public, we always, hopefully, always think about the impact, about the consequences, about the effect of our words.
Well, that's something I have to deal with still. I have not a good answer for that, for being responsible for what you write. Because when I wrote the book Bieg, I have no experience. I have no idea. I couldn't imagine, and I didn't even think about being published and that this thing I'm writing will be read by other people, like those who I don't have any personal contact. So it was maybe it was a stupid thing for my side, because you should have thought in advance. But I was just, these things just happened. Like, I wrote the book, and then the publishing house just published it, and it was on the shelves, and I was really shocked. And I was I was actually in a shock. Like, I was thinking, how could we just collect all the copies, because it was so terrifying, that it's going to be read by hopefully many people. But yeah. So since then, I'm struggling with that thing, with the responsibility part. But these stories I hear sometimes just help me overcome these fears, because I've heard some stories, comments on internet or whatever, that this is a bad book, I've never read so bad book, this is the worst book in my life, or whatever. But you can't make really harms. You can't cause any really big harm with a book to anyone. Like, if it's a big one and you can hit in the head, that's another thing. But if someone doesn't like the book, then just throw it away. I don't care. It's your choice. You choose to read it. You don't like it. That's really fine for me. That's perfect. If you like it, that's another thing. That's even better. And if it helps you, or it changes your life, or brings something to your life that's an experience or a shock or whatever, then it's great. So that's something you can't control. You don't have control. Yeah, we have this saying, when you have this, if you have butter on your head, don't go in the sun, because so you write a book that has consequences in the better, worse or good or bad, whatever. So
Benedek, thank you for all the stories you shared with me. Thanks for the conversation.
Thank you very much.